purpose in every step became the pursuit of the life of Paul. So, what's your pursuit? In the steps you take, in the things you engage with, can you say you've got purpose in every step? Hello, Catalyst family and friends across the globe. Welcome to your Voice of Awakening. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. And I'm going to be sharing on what I call momentum builders. How do you make the most of what you have been given in order to be able to deliver the best you can deliver this year? I believe you've got certain resources and capacity within you that our world is waiting for. The best of you is still locked within you. There are great things you've done in your yesterday. There are great dreams you have in your heart for tomorrow. But for what you currently carry within you to become actual reality, there are certain things you need to do in order to build your momentum, to push yourself and drive and mine what you have and deliver the best to our world. And I believe that's what you have to give at your workplace, to your family, to the non-governmental organization you work for, to the community you serve, to the church you're serving, and to the business you are building. You've got resources locked within you. You've got capacity within you. You've got what it takes in order to make the world better for someone in your environment. And so how do you do that? Such that when you come to the end of the year, you'll be able to look back and be grateful that you made some impact in some measure. You advanced some life forward and further by what you have given, the energy you've released, the commitment you have delivered. By all of those things, you've been able to do something positive with your life by the end of the year. So what do you do to build momentum, to build your drive, to build your energy in order to deliver significant results as you go along in the year? There are three momentum builders I want us to consider this day. The first of them is what I call being deliberate in your determined objectives. Being deliberate in your determined objectives. We've spoken about setting up your objectives all through the last series. I think the first 5 series in January and the last series we had before this one, we talked about objectivity, and it's going to be a thread that will run through everything we discussed this year. But when I talk about being deliberate in your determined objectives, what I'm simply saying in one word is intentionality. In the way you engage your time, in the way you engage with people, in the way you engage with corporations, in the way you collaborate with others around you, you've got to be intentional, you've got to be deliberate based on your objectives. You cannot afford to drift along with every wind of opinion in the marketplace, every wind of doctrine in the ministry arena, every wind of opinions around and about yourself. You can't afford to drift along with the trend. Those who go with the trend trip along the way. You don't trip along with the trend. You take trends, analyze them, look at the substance within the trends that is constantly going on around you. You look at the trend that is constantly going on around you, you analyze it, you pick lessons, and then you use those lessons to scale up in order to focus intentionally on your set objectives. Intentionality, deliberate attention to what you have been given to you. So in that way, in other words, you become missional. There's a mission to your methods. Everything you do is based on the mission you set out for yourself. You have a purpose that drives your pursuit. So that's the key in being able to build momentum. See, if you have a mission that is driving you, methods may change, the things may change around you, conditions and context will change. However, the purpose remains, the objectives are clear. You may tweak your objectives here and there, but you stay focused on the core objectives you've chosen for the year. So I'd like to ask you again, what are the objectives? And how are you engaging your objectives? Are you just drifting along, just engaging with just about everything and everyone? Or are you being intentional in the way you focus on your objectives? Be intentional, be deliberate in the way you focus on your objectives. Paul in the scripture in Philippians chapter 3 and verse 12 said, I admit that I haven't yet acquired the absolute fullness that I am pursuing, but I run with passion into the abundance so that I may reach the purpose that Christ Jesus has called me to fulfill. So he had an understanding that Christ has given him an assignment, and there's a purpose to that assignment that became his objectives, and he focused on those objectives. Intentional. So the purpose in every step became the pursuit of the life of Paul. So what's your pursuit? In the steps you take, in the things you engage with, can you say you've got purpose in every step? There's a reason for every rising. Every race you run does have a reason. There is a why to every what. Whatever you do must have a why. Okay? So that's the key to the first key to building momentum. I remember reading the book The Shoe Dogs by Philip Knight, the founder of Nike Corporation. He recounted on how when he started his corporation, at the beginning in his father's boys' quarters, he had to be intentional as to the sort of job he was going to take, because he was working part-time on his business and part-time to raise money in order to run his business. And so he picked some kind of job. He went into lecturing, he went into some other things to gain experience in order to be able to have enough time to focus on his business. At another time, he went into training into an accounting firm to understand how the books are run in order to be able to run his business. He went to consulting, seeing how books and spreadsheets and balance sheets are done in order for him to learn the basics of running his own business, while concurrently he was building his business alongside. So he had an intention, that he was intentional about the objectives and the things he engaged with. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about. So you are intentional about the sort of job you take. You're intentional about the kind of things you do. If you're intentional and deliberate about your set objectives, you realize that at every step of the way, you are building up energy, building up momentum, and compounding capacity for you to be able to leap forward and progress and propel into the future. So be deliberate in your determined objectives. The second way to building momentum is to be disciplined in your use of resources. Being disciplined in the use of resources. Those who are disciplined in the use of resources can take a dime and make something out of it. They take nothing and they create value out of it. They stretch the value of $1. How can you stretch the resources you currently have? And when I'm talking about resources, the first of them is your time, your money, and your energy. Energy is resources. Time, we understand, is resources. By focusing your energy and your resources and your ability on your best objectives, you increase your chances of making the most with what you have been given. To make the most of what you have been given, you focus your energy, your ability, and your resources to making sure that you are disciplined in the way you deploy those things. Steve Jobs was said to her when he returned back to the Apple Corporation. Remember that he helped to create Apple Corporation, and there was some mergers and takeover. And so when the takeover happened, he was pushed out, and then later on they asked him to come back to rebuild the corporation. And by the time he got back there, he realized they were doing about 40 somewhat products. And he said, oh, this is just too much. They had to be disciplined in the use of resources. So he cut the product they were focused on to just about 10, knowing that they can be the best in what they do. In such a way, they focused the use of their resources, and they were disciplined in the way they deploy resources in order to be able to get what they want. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. So you are disciplined on the way you deploy your resources. Remember when Jesus performed the miracle of the 5 loaves and 2 fish? It was said that when he had fed 5,000 men, excluding women and children at that time, as they did a census, you realize they said they had 12 baskets left, and he said, gather the remaining that there may not be a waste. So you see, you approach your project with a lean Six Sigma approach where you cut out waste in time, in energy, and in resources. You've got to be able to see what does it cost you to produce X, Y, Z, and which part of it is a waste, which part of it is necessary, which part is not necessary. That way you have a continuous improvement program that gives you the momentum to be able to build on being able to generate more than enough resources to drive your vision and your dream as you go along the way. So the first to remember we said is to be deliberate in your determined objectives. The way you engage your objectives is deliberate and intentional. And secondly, we said you've got to be disciplined in the way you engage and deploy your resources. Lastly, but not the least, the third way to building your momentum to deliver results is to be driven in your delivery of results. You are driven, so you do not drift, you drive. You are proactive, you are not reactive. So if we are proactive, we drive, we initiate things, we push things forward, we engage with the market, and we don't just drift along, we don't just coast along, we're not casual about the way we go about our businesses, our engagement, our jobs, our career, our vocation. We are deliberate, we're intentional, and we are driven. Albeit driven from within, albeit driven from your own personal persuasion, albeit driven by your own personal convictions, not driven by guilt, not driven by external pressure, but it's a self-driven internal locus that helps you to be able to keep your focus, and you are pressing and you constantly go forward. Being able to establish a sense of urgency to the things you do will help you to get more impact and deliver more mileage in the marketplace. If you will deliver more mileage in the marketplace, it is important to be driven from within. When intentions and convictions are clear, intensity to drive is present. When your intention and your convictions are clear, the intensity to drive will be powerfully present. The most dangerous way to engage the marketplace is to be undecided and to lack intensity in your drive. Those who become casual become casualties, someone said. So don't be casual in your approach to your job, to your career, to your vocation, to your dream, to the book you're writing, to the vision you have in your hand, to the venture you are engaging in, to the startup, to the way you engage with people. Engage with intention, engage with a drive. Let's drive forward. Paul in Philippians 3:13 said, I don't depend on my own strength. In verse 14, he said, I run straight for the divine invitation. I run straight to the goal with purpose in every step. There's a drive, a focus, a determined effort to keep things going. So, my dear friend, if you will stay positive and make things happen for you in your vocation, in your career, in your home, in your family, in whatever you are engaged in this year. If you stay focused and intentional in the way you engage with your set objectives, and you stay disciplined in the way you deploy your resources, and you are driven in the way you target for your results, I believe there is no mountain too high for you to climb. There is no goal you won't reach. There's no objective you've set you won't accomplish. This is to the best of your objectives, and this is the best of you. Till I come your way again, this is Martin saying, keep alert and stay awake, because your best is still ahead of you. Bye for now.